Good morning, ladies and germs. Today we're going to talk about immigration for a little bit. But before I do, I want to read you a poem. Um, we know this from the base of the Statue of Liberty, but I think it bears repeating here. Okay, it's called "The New Colossus," written by Emma Lazarus. It's a sonnet. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Quote, "Keep ancient lands, you storied pomp," cries she with silent lips. Quote, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." Now, that is what welcomes anyone coming into New York Harbor, where certainly during the late 19th, early 20th century, millions upon millions of people were processed through Ellis Island. And a lot of people in America can trace their ancestry back to people who walked through those doors at Ellis Island in New York Harbor. Um, but do we really live by those words? And that's something that we struggle with a lot, because what's true in this country, it's absolutely true, is that everyone watching this, including myself, sitting here and giving it to you, is either a descendant of someone who came here voluntarily as a conqueror, or someone who came here involuntarily as a slave. That's it. All citizens are in one of those two camps, okay? So we're all the product of immigration. The question is it good for the country? If there are problems, what are the problems? But probably some of the biggest questions to ask are, who gets to decide that we're full? We got enough people now. Um, who gets to put the quotas on? Who gets to make those decisions? And who gets to decide who comes in and who doesn't? I mean, these are all good questions. And at the heart of it is this idea of immigration and what it really means. And just so you know, I know there's a lot of talk in the news today about racism and how the current administration is. I mean, the only thing really different about this administration than previous administrations is that they're kind of doing it out in the open. But make no mistake, America has a long and shameful history of shunning immigrants. Um, the Irish, right around the World War II, if you ever see Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, um, it depicts that time when the Irish were coming over during the potato famine. They were seen as like monkeys, drunken monkeys. They were naturally inclined to violence. They were Catholic, so oh my God. So they had all these kids like rodents, and they were seen as subhuman. Okay, now they didn't nearly have it as bad as the slaves did. Okay, I'm not trying to say that, but it wasn't much better. Okay, and so and then about, I don't know, 50, 60 years later, during the early part of the 20th century, a lot of Italians started coming in. And same thing, people saw them as they don't know the language, they're weird, they're loud, they have a lot of kids, they're like roaches. I mean, just take your metaphor for vermin and just place it on there. The Chinese, don't even get me started on the Chinese, okay? The Chinese were seen as an expendable workforce. They were brought over here, they were worked to death pretty much on the railroads. In fact, that's why there's a lot of Chinese in San Francisco, is most of them came over here and operated out of there for the railroads. But it was criminal what those people endured for years. And then look at today. We have the coronavirus, and what are we hearing? This is a Chinese virus, and the Chinese, and then this, that, and the other. So this is age old in our country, okay? But it goes back thousands of years. Again, till we came out of the caves, okay? We have been fearful of the other with a capital O, okay? The other doesn't look like us. The other comes from a foreign land. The other doesn't speak like us. The other may have different color skin. The other is not you. And if the other is not you or of your in group, then it's a threat. And so a lot of politicians, a lot of people, just regular people, stoke what's called xenophobia. It's a fun word to say, but not a fun thing to live. Xenophobia is the irrational. Any phobia is an irrational fear, an irrational fear of foreigners. Okay, there's nothing inherently bad about someone who comes from a foreign country, but the problems that we're seeing today, and we'll get into the walls. Okay, is the questions are here: are all immigrants entering the country illegally coming over the border? Is that true? Well, if you look into the numbers, a lot of times it's people overstaying their visas. Okay, they come in here on a student visa or a tourist visa and they just stay. Okay, but it's a popular conception that they're just pouring over the border down to Mexico. Again, it plays into that they're all brown, they're all poor, and they're all just coming in here. Why are they coming here? Again, we hear that they're coming here for free stuff. They're coming here to steal your jobs. Is that true? Let's say, okay, you're in college. You're getting a degree, I don't know, in business administration. Okay. Do you really think that, you know, Jose or Juan or anybody that, that is coming over the border in Mexico is really going to be competing with you for a business administration job? I'm just telling you, I mean, those people are working in the farms doing work that the Americans don't want to do. And that's the dirty little secret of this country. Okay. And it's something you really want to look into. I hasten that you should do it sooner than later. Is that the states that are the biggest proponents of anti-immigration, a lot of ones I've lived in, Mississippi, most of the South, certainly Oklahoma, run on immigrant labor. If all the well, look at Florida. Okay, tomorrow. Okay. Let's assume that the coronavirus is gone. Okay, but on any given day, what is our industry in Florida? It's tourism. Okay, tourism runs on immigrant labor. If every person who was either an immigrant or had questionable status didn't show up to work tomorrow, if coronavirus wasn't an issue, the state economy would collapse. Okay, in Texas, most of that farming work and the ranching work is done by immigrant labor because Americans don't. They see it beneath them. They see it that we're too good to do that kind of work, by and large. This happened in Alabama. Okay, I was living there when this happened. The governor passed a law that said anyone seen giving aid to an immigrant, an illegal immigrant, and by the way, when people say illegal, a person cannot be illegal. A human being cannot be illegal. The proper way to talk it is undocumented workers or people that are here illegally. But to say they're illegals, Elie Wiesel, who survived the Holocaust, said over to spend his life being a humanist, said that a human being cannot be illegal. Okay, they can do things that are illegal, but a person cannot be illegal. But in Texas they run it in Alabama. Where was I? I forgot what I was saying. In Alabama, overnight they passed this law saying that you can't give aid to immigrants, okay, or illegal immigrants. And so overnight, these people didn't show up to work. They were scared to death. And so tomatoes started piling up in the field. Tomatoes is a big crop in Alabama. And that business collapsed because he couldn't find anyone willing to do that work. So there's a real world data there that says, okay, let's take the immigrants out of here. Well, the people that could do the work weren't going to do it for what they were paying the illegal immigrants. Okay, are the undocumented workers. They if we were to do that work, it would cost them a lot more money, and you're not going to pay $27 for a pound of tomatoes to pay for it. Okay, so a lot of these immigrants come to this country and do the work that we think we're too good to do. Okay, and what happens? They get persecuted the entire time, or blamed for all of the ills. Okay, so it's almost a lose-lose for them in a lot of ways. Okay, but all of these things are real. Okay, they're real in people's minds, and policies get enacted violence happens. I mean, there are a lot of things going on based on hate crimes. All these kind of things go back to this fear, this irrational fear of immigrants. And so um, that's kind of our original sin of this country is that and it's a conundrum, it's a paradox. How do you limit immigration in a country built on immigrants? Can you build a wall to keep them out? And who are we to say that nobody else can come in? I mean, these are the things. Okay, these are the things that are at the center of this debate, and you have to ask yourself: Is it irrational? Is it rational? Is it irrational? Why is it that we continue to struggle with this? How come are other countries just as bad? And if so, why? What's driving this? What's driving this nationalism? And again, that's a word you hear a lot about too, nationalism. It's not like, hey, yay, USA, or, like you go to the World Cup and it's like, yay, Puerto Rico, or yay, Zimbabwe, or whatever. That's having pride, that's being a patriot. But nationalism is a malignant form of that. It's a belief that your country is special and deserves to rule others. Okay? That's nationalism. And nationalism spawns anti-immigrant racism and hate crimes. It just does, okay? And you see happening in Brazil, you see happening in Turkey, you see happening in England, of all places, okay? These things are happening. So this isn't just a uniquely American thing. What is driving this these days, And to give a little preview to our last thing we're talking about, climate change is at the root of it. And they don't want to admit it, is because what's going to happen when the equatorial region of this country, which is populated pretty much by brown people, what happens when it becomes unlivable? What happens when those people migrate out to other places? Well, then you're going to see real ugliness. Okay, so unless we get some kind of a handle on this, okay, and we have people in our own government, a guy named Stephen King, not the writer, different Stephen King. He's an Iowa senator. Basically says that, what do you want? People coming here and having their children, which means that they're coming here and they're breeding with us. That's an animal husbandry term. That's equating immigrants with vermin and livestock. Okay, that's a slippery slope. If you start dehumanizing people, go ask how that happened in Germany in 1938, 39. Okay, how that panned out. Once you start seeing other people as less than human, anything you do to them, it becomes okay. Okay, so there's a dark side to this. Not just, hey, I don't like that guy over there because he looks different than I am, but people act on this and irrationally, and so this is a really good topic to think about, because it is something that we struggle with, and it's something that certainly, um, um, when we talk about diversity in the country, we talk about cultural diversity, racial diversity. This is what it looks like, and you have to ask yourself, and some people do ask yourselves, do in every other way in the world, uh, in nature, biodiversity is what you want, because if one thing happens over here, then another one will grow. Biodiversity makes everybody happy. Why can't the same thing be seen as a racial component? I mean, these are all open questions. Okay, that if you were writing about this, absolutely would give you plenty to talk about. Okay, it is a hot button issue, so it's kind of tough to be not unbiased, but certainly unemotional about it, because no matter which side of the fence you're on, it can get your ire up sometimes, but because of what you see when you really start picking away and peeling the scab off this and see what lies beneath it. It's ugly. It's very, very ugly. And how do we reconcile that with the Statue of Liberty's the new Colossus? I mean, that symbol of our country, this woman holding a torch for all of the lost, all of the lost in the world to come and breathe free. How do we reconcile that? Are we liars? Are we disingenuous? I don't know. These are the things. This is the struggle in America. Okay, what makes us American? And I'll finish with this. There's a man named Benedict Anderson, who wrote a book many years ago called Imagined Communities. And he said that since most of us will never meet all, even most of our fellow countrymen, what is a country? Is it land? Is it blood and soil? Is it people? What is it? Okay. And so, what are you fighting for when you're fighting for your country? Um, and he argued that it really exists in our heads. Um, and in America, and this is just my opinion, but I really believe this. I believe that America is not this land that we're on. It's not even the people living on the land. It's a set of ideals, a set of ideas and ideals. It's a set of ideas that says that you have the right, the divine right to live the life you want to live, however you want to live it, by any means that you deem necessary. Okay, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. That's the caveat. But you should be able to realize your best self, and that is what this country is all about on paper. How do we reconcile that with how we really do it in real life? Okay, so these are things that you want to think about, and I think not just for a class, but just for living and putting in one foot in front of the other as a human being on planet Earth. These are things that we have to struggle with. Okay, these are your fellow human beings that we're talking about, and and no matter what we feel about them, they still are our fellow human beings, and so we need to come to terms with this. And it's a slippery slope when it comes to this kind of stuff, because most people, when asked, if they would not consider themselves being racist at all. They would argue that this is about jobs, or it's about security, or it's about this, or it's about terrorism. That's a good one. It's about terrorism, when really it's not about any of that stuff at all. It's a lot more insidious. So, anyway, I will see you guys next time. Please stay safe, wash your hands, and isolate if you can. I haven't been out of the house in, what's today? I think it's close to 2.5 weeks. So since I saw you guys last, I think. So I will talk to you guys later.